Shira left the place people called the Hub for what she hoped was the last time. It was a backwater dump, made mostly of ruined buildings that she had survived in during her years of exile. Of course, living in the Hub hadn't been easy. Like most places in the borders between great nations, it was lawless, poor, and surrounded by bandits. Shira had been stabbed, cut, beaten, and robbed many times, but she had never stayed down. When honest work never paid off, she stole, mugged, and robbed to get by, whatever it took. Shira joined the shinobi thieves and learned the arts of stealth and assassination from them. She'd robbed at least half of the nearby shops blind. She had become deadly, quick, and quiet during her years in the gutter. She was a thief, a bandit, a bounty hunter, whatever would get her the things that she needed to one day be ready to leave and accomplish her ultimate goal. Shira had endured her exile while sleeping next to trash fires and eating scraps. No more. She left the Hub behind for the last time to go home, back to the United Cities. It was time to get her revenge. She was going to kill the Emperor. The journey started smoothly. None of the usual bandit ambushes, just a trading caravan and a horde of hungry bandits in the distance, desperately looking for food. Once, Shira would have been easy pickings for them. Now they didn't even see her pass by in broad daylight. She found an outpost of some kind, not a large one, but one that she had seen before. She still wasn't far from the Hub, and seeing the guards at the gate were Akronite paladins, she knew that this was still one of their work camps. They were religious fanatics, as well as slavers, who believed that only human men were holy and that women were servants of a dark god. Shira had normally not bothered with them, but she was in a vengeful mood. Why not have a little fun? She set one of their slaves free, and when the fanatic guards came to recapture the slave, Shira knocked them out. Other slaves tried to make a break for it as Shira fought the guards. Her skills were sharp, and this was just a warm-up. The fanatics were no match for her. Maybe she could have taken all of the guards out, one by one, and freed the entire camp. But maybe that would have gotten her killed too, and it sounded like a lot of trouble. As much as the Akronites annoyed her, they weren't really her enemy. So she let herself have a little amusement by watching the guards recapture their slaves. Then she left. She had bigger fish to fry. Soon the familiar yellow hills of the border zone gave way to dark, rocky sands and some old metal structures pointing up into the air. Shira had never been here before, but she had heard of it. This was a place called the Deadlands, where ancient and dangerous machines were said to live, but Shira was confident she could outsneak or outrun anything in there. Though when she walked over the black sands of the Deadlands, they were weirdly hot to her feet, and they started to burn. When it started to rain, the rain burned her skin as well. Shira quickly ran back the way she came. None of the travelers ever mentioned burning sand and rain. She cursed the wanderers who had told her about the place and never mentioned that, before just going up north and taking the long way around. It all didn't matter. Her revenge would come soon enough anyway. It was easy going again. Even when Shira snuck her way past an Akronite outpost, the fanatics weren't exactly her biggest fans now, but they weren't exactly the smartest and most observant either. Soon the ground underneath her feet became a deep orange, and Shira knew that she was close to home, on the borders of the great desert that the United Cities lived on. She stopped for a moment to talk to a small group of travelers, rebels as it turned out, but they were just angry farmers, not warriors at all. They really stood no chance. Shira told them she was a bounty hunter and kept going, deeper into the desert. She was starting to wonder if she'd gotten lost. Then she saw something on the horizon, the first step on her revenge tour, a massive circular monolith poking up from the desert. This was Emperor Tengu's vault, the prison where the most dangerous criminals, the most hated of the nobility, were stored. As the sun rose, Shira could see that Tengu's vault was extremely heavily guarded. Getting inside shouldn't be hard. A guard was wandering away from the walls, alone, and that turned out to be his last mistake. With his armor as a disguise, Shira slipped past the gate guards and strolled straight into the vault itself like she actually belonged there. Any false move, though, would mean over a dozen elite samurai cutting her to pieces. She looked through the cells. There was one that she wanted to talk to. He was the celebrity of Tengu's vault, another assassin. His name was Luquin, an assassin who had killed United Cities nobles and tried to kill Emperor Tengu himself. Luquin had failed and let himself get captured. Now he lived in a tiny cage, humiliated, a failure. Shira knew that would not be her fate as well. She whispered a message to the failed assassin Luquin, told him that his work would soon be completed. Luquin hardly betrayed any reaction at all, but She knew he was broken. He thought Tengu was invincible, but Shira would show him. The legendary Lu Qin would feel foolish when he heard about her work, because right now, he didn't believe she could pull it off. Shira left as effortlessly as she arrived, with the first part of her plan complete. She wished she'd be able to see Lu Qin's face when he heard about the Emperor's death. Then Shira traveled east to the trading city of Hang, the jewel in the eye of the Traders Guild, and also the home of her next target. Shira had ditched the disguise and her sword, they would just weigh her down, and entered the town without any trouble. She hid in a nearby storage shed and meditated, focused herself. Her heart was beating and her palms were sweating with anticipation. All those years of preparation were finally coming to fruition. When darkness fell, it was finally time. Shira walked over to Lord Yoshinaga's manor house. She could hardly believe she was actually there. It felt like living a dream she had replayed in her head for years as she traveled the desert and slept next to trash fires and ruined buildings. Getting through the locked door was easy, and nobody was watching the stairs leading up to the second floor. The guards were all asleep, and so was Lord Yoshinaga himself, as arrogant as you please, probably thinking that his wealth and status would keep anyone from ever thinking of touching him. Shira watched him sleep for a minute. He was so peaceful, so content, despite how evil he was. When he laid down that night, he had no idea that was the last time he would ever feel his bed again, or see his luxuries that he bought with oppression and cruelty. Shira knocked the noble out as he slept and draped him over her shoulder. Sneaking out of his house was just as easy as sneaking in had been. The streets were mostly quiet as well, just one or two people ended up between her and the gate leading back to the desert. Though the gate itself was the trickiest part. The guards spotted her as she went by, but she knew they would. It took all of her speed and stamina to get away from them swiftly. They would only dare chase her so far, though, even for the life of their arrogant lord. She lost them in the dunes of the desert. When they were alone, Shira dumped Yoshinaga on the ground and took his sword for herself. She wouldn't just finish him in his sleep. That would be too easy for him. Shira wanted Yoshinaga to see it coming, to feel the fear her parents had felt when he had brought his sword down on them so many years ago. The noble woke up and immediately started to run like an absolute coward. He was terrified, probably for the first time in his life. Shira laughed and chased him. He was fast, sure, but not nearly as fast as her. She was gaining on him when a small pack of bandits happened upon them. One went for Yoshinaga, and Shira cut down the other three quickly. God, she was fast. Seconds later, Yoshinaga and the fourth bandit were down. A few sword strokes, a quick cut of a sharp blade, and the world was changed for the better. Shira watched the noble tyrant bleed out on the ground. Did he feel the same fear that her mother had felt so long ago as she had lain dying in the sand, just for daring to not bow as the great Lord Yoshinaga walked by? Did he think that this was just as random and cruel an act as when he had killed a young girl's mother just for the slightest sign of disrespect? No. Shira was sure that the Lord's pain was somehow worse. He didn't even have a husband and a daughter to comfort him as he faded away. There was only Shira, looking down at him coldly. She felt nothing. It didn't matter. There was no time to be happy. Just time to run across the desert towards the capital city, Heft. No more sideshows or diversions. It was time to end this. Time for the final strike. The guards would know her face now, since she had been seen kidnapping Yoshinaga. Luckily, the gate was lightly guarded. It was almost as though they wanted her to sneak in. The arrogance of these petty tyrants amazed her. Inside the walls, it was only a matter of hiding in the shadows until she caught a samurai alone. She cut his throat and dumped him into a storage shed before changing into his armor. With another disguise, it would be just a matter of walking into the throne room and waiting for the right time to strike. She could see the palace right there. Tengu was in there, so close. Any second now, and she would have him. She heard a guard shout and started to run, and a moment later his weapon sliced through the air. Somehow a whole squad of samurai had recognized her, even through the disguise. This was bad, but Shira could still have her chance. Even if it cost her her life, she could make her way into the palace and cut the Emperor down before anyone could stop her. She had to do it. It had to be now. She might never get another chance if they caught her. The samurai chased her as she threw her polearm to the ground and unsheathed Yoshinaga's sword. She would need to destroy Tengu quickly. The throne room was mostly empty. The tyrant wasn't there, maybe upstairs. There he was, Emperor Tengu, right there in sight, almost in reach. But on the other side, of a horde of his personal guards. Shira tried to rush through them and get close to the Emperor, but there was no way she could get even a single slice of her katana in. There were just too many of them. Shira couldn't even run away. There was no way to fight through them, and they mauled her badly. A whole horde of samurai cut into her. Shira fell. She had failed. They stripped her bare and left her inside of a cold cage. She was cut up really badly, though they had bandaged her up. She had missed her chance to kill Tengu. She had lost the revenge that she had been waiting her whole life for. Everything hurt. It ached, but not as much as the ancient pain, the hole in her chest that burned so hard. It had kept her alive through all of the hard times. She was alone, naked, and humiliated. Maybe Tengu was invincible. The fat, cruel emperor was surely laughing at her. They came for Shira before she could even attempt an escape and put her in chains. Soon she was part of a slave caravan walking through the desert. They didn't even take her seriously enough to put her in jail. They'd sold her. With shackles on her feet and guards closely watching her, there was no way that Shira was going to break out. There was, for the first time since she had gone into exile, no hope in Shira's life, no promise of justice. She had recognized the Emperor's throne room, even during her mad dash through it to try to kill him. She would never forget that place, and it looked a lot like it had all those years ago. She and her father had come to the Emperor and asked for justice, for something to be done about Yoshinaga's murder of Shira's mother. Shira's father had been a fool to believe that Tengu would side with some peasants over a noble. Tengu called Shira's father a liar and charged him with insulting nobility, for which the punishment was death. Nobody spoke out against the nobles, and even enslavement would have been a fairer punishment. But no, it had been death. They had cut Shira's father's head off right in front of her. She started to truly believe that she would never get revenge. Then, a beast attacked the caravan. Shira hesitated at first. She thought that maybe she was done for, cursed to labor in a mine until she died. Well, then if she would die, she thought, she might as well die trying. Nobody noticed her unlocking her shackles and all the commotion at first, but as soon as things died down, they did. Her legs were stiff and sore from the cage, and at first even the samurai were catching up to her. Though something spurred Shira on. Even with no possessions, maybe she could do it. Just maybe. At the least she would die very publicly and show that she did not just sit by and let herself get abused. She was free again, free to finish her mission. She ran back to the city of Heft. Maybe there was a way after all. Maybe Tengu would let his guard down after surviving one attempt. Maybe he thought that he would never see Shira again. Maybe he would be too confident. Too arrogant. Shira mugged a farmer and took his clothes and his blade. She slipped into the city, right past the gate guards. Again, no disguise this time. She relied solely on stealth and speed. She could hardly believe it. It was almost as though the guards had suddenly gone blind. She passed right by them, so quietly and quickly that they never even glanced in her direction. It was like Shira was blessed, like she wasn't even there, like she was a shadow. She might actually pull it off this time. Back in the throne room, she saw him, standing cockily next to the stairs. Alone, no guards. Tengu, the tyrant emperor, vulnerable. Shira struck. Nobody noticed her knock him out. They would surely kill her if she was caught again, but she knew what she had to do now. The guards could hardly believe it when Shira ran past them with the Emperor draped over her shoulder. She wasn't even hiding now, just running out of the city as quickly as she could. Out of the palace, through the streets, right past the samurai at the gate. They could hardly even believe what they were seeing, so none of them reacted in time to stop her. Then it was just her and Tengu in the desert. Her and the Emperor. She gave him the farmer's blade and kept his katana for herself. He stood up slowly and they drew their swords and fought. Neither of them said anything. They knew that this was a fight for life and death. At the very least, Tengu had a better chance than Shira's father or mother ever did. And well, she wanted the Emperor to see this coming, to have some hope that he would fight his way out of this. Maybe he would. Shira landed the first hit, but the Emperor held his own as well. Shira actually started to doubt whether she would win, but just for a moment. One moment. Emperor Tengu was no match for her. When it was over, Shira stood over the Emperor of the United Cities as he bled out into the sand. She could hardly believe it. After all the years and hardship, all the killing, all the horrible things she had done to get here, the Emperor was dead. Her life's work was finished. She listened to the wind of the desert whip by and wondered, what happens now?